Welcome to the podcast that questions everything, from conspiracies to philosophy, from science to religion. We will be looking at the construct of the illusion, and as always, we will question everything. Hello and welcome to Everything's an Illusion, a podcast where we question everything. I'm your host, Robert Wallace, and today I am joined by Justin Kewaquado. Justin is from Canada, from Ontario, staying in Ottawa for school, and he is the cousin of a fine gentleman we had on the last podcast, Mr. Richard Steele, who I do believe is in the room.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about the role of mass media in society, talking about all that sort of good stuff, chatting the breeze. How's yourself, Justin?
Oh, I'm doing fine today, yeah. How are you?
Oh, brilliant. So, just if you want to just give the listeners a quick introduction to yourself and again, what interests you about, mass media, how it plays its role, and your breakdown of society, and we'll get this ball rolling.
Oh, okay. Well, sounds good. What interests me about mass media and its role in society? Well, there's a lot of things, really, that could interest you about that. But the main one would be, I guess its use as a tool for indoctrination and education is what interests me, right?
Well, they definitely indoctrinate us, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, we get into lots of discussions in university about that. There's a big discussion about media, whether it's reactionary or if it's actually what causes people to act certain ways. And I tend to lead towards media being, at least in what our society is as a capitalist society, more reactionary.
Yeah.
So I don't really think media leads. It's more of like a reinforcing tool, but it also
certainly exaggerates.
Yeah. I'd say it exaggerates. It reinforces ideas.
Yeah.
And that's its role, right?
Yeah, and I think the way the media as well, they can pretty much say anything they want. They can tell any story they want, whether it be true or not true, or whether it's going on or not going on, I would say. So.
Yeah, well, there's really no way to tell unless you're there.
Exactly. So that's it.
There's a lot of, you have to take it or not. You have to be a reasonable human being and question everything.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Well, that's
illusion.
That's what you're saying there about leading or reaction. I think it's, well, for people like ourselves, people who are interested in this subject, I think it's very clear that, unfortunately, at the high level of, if you like, mainstream news or mainstream media production, there's not very many journalists, as in someone who is looking for truth, who's looking to break news, is looking to, at that level, most people are just a shill. They're taking a paycheck to entertain, they're taking a paycheck to put out the information that their organisation has sanctioned that benefits the corporate teamwork that news channel or that media organisation is owned by. Kind of like Rupert Murdoch kind of owns loads of newspapers, loads of, so the people who write for him, they write in a particular style, they write a particular kind of system of words, all designed to push his agenda. So they're just intellectual prostitutes.
Oh, well, actually, there's this really interesting thought that I've heard, and I've actually kind of submitted to, and it's that it takes a very specific person to reach high-ranking jobs in media, and you get your Anderson Coopers and alike, and they of course think they're doing a good job because it's such an illusion.
Yeah.
But that they would never have gotten into to be in the position that they were if they weren't the type of person who is in terms of prostitute
Yeah, exactly.
to those ideals that they're being submitted to. They are a specific person, like a specific shell of a person per se,
Yeah.
or an archetype of a human being, and that's what allows them to succeed to begin with. You don't get your Alex Jones in those mass like things. Not to say that he's correct about anything,
Yeah.
but people who are highly opinionated in the contrary to like the main course of thought don't get to be in those positions. There's really only two trains of thought in at least America and like, you know, North America and like most Western countries, and that's like liberal and that's conservative.
Yeah.
Or Democrat and Republican or whatever, or what have you. So yeah, you only get two major opinions, and you can always, like, if you paid attention to enough news, you can always tell which is which.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just one thing I read, and I thought was pretty convincing, actually.
I think it's again that if we just look at media, go back, 30, 40 years, one of the things that the elite or the people in power controlled, or one of the first things they had to control was music, because music was open to everyone. Anybody could be a musician, anyone could tell a story and have that story be broadcast to millions. So hence why our music industry was taken over and dumbed down and made crap. And then art, books, people been able to write. And with the advent of social media and the internet, everybody has the power to essentially be a BBC or a Fox News or whatever, So now there is the opportunity for, people to broadcast, just like this podcast. But the problem with that is now that Tom, Dick and Harry can broadcast, most people are just sort of ignorant, opinionated fools who broadcast. And then you've got the ignorant, opinionated fools with money who have official channels and they broadcast. And in amongst it, there's some good quality shit.
Oh yeah, well it's hard to actually pull that good shit out of the white noise, is what I'd say. It's everybody has a voice all of a sudden, and it's very hard to find somebody who's actually willing to make a point, or like who's willing to put the research into their point, who knows how to make an educated point.
Yeah, lots of people base everything what other people have said on the internet, but if you think about the internet, because anyone can say whatever they want, and then suddenly you believe what the internet says, and that's pretty much everyone basically. How many times do you go on Google and you Google something that you don't know, and then you just assume that because you've typed that word in or whatever that is correct, you just assume that it is. But someone's had to have put that up, so that person could be wrong, essentially.
Well, there was this huge, thing that you can notice now today is actually mass media's reaction to this new force in the world, this new force in news, and it's attempting to control it. You've seen like all these people bloom. There's big channels now that aren't those specific archetypes that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And mass media is taking chunks out of like YouTube, and now you don't even have your subscription feed on the beginning page on YouTube. It's not the first thing you see when you go to YouTube. You see an algorithm, and can you trust that algorithm? Can you trust that algorithm is really giving you what you want and not giving you alternate mainstream opinions? Are they people paying to alter the algorithm?
Well,
so
exactly.
that you're seeing more of the average stuff, like
That's one thing you definitely see about YouTube now, is people do pay to put what they want on there.
you can pay to be on the front page. I'm sure.
Easy, yeah. And you
so.
can put whatever, if you've got enough money, you can put whatever you decide to put on the front page. And
But that's the nature of Google. That's their business.
Yeah, exactly.
And the AdWords and selling advertisement space, etc. The nature of their game is to provide obviously accurate search results, but at the same time it's to provide people with cash the ability to rank higher.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, you have the ability to search or communicate with a circle of friends via the internet, to establish good channels to follow, be it a podcast, be it a video blog, be it a traditional blog, be it a website, whatever. But we now have the means, like all three of us have the savvy and the technical means to create a blog, a website, a YouTube channel, etc., etc. So if it's open to us, the potential for it to change with the power to the people kind of mentality, from the people, by the people, for the people, using just home technology.
As somebody who studies sociology, I tend not to trust the people very much, because there's a lot of tricks to hurting the people, and like media is one of them. So it's hilarious, because it's all you have to do is appeal to people. You see Donald Trump, he's good at putting on a show. He's good media.
Yeah, he's good at, even if people hate him, people still talk about him. So he still, even if you know nothing about politics, you still know who Donald Trump is.
Well, I guess my point is mainly, it's like, yes, everybody's talking. Yes, there are some people making good points. Oh, sorry, and that's the truth of it. But you can't guide the people to the good points, because the people sometimes end up following your trumps.
Yeah, exactly. And what can happen as well, if you're surrounded by like-minded people, say you're in a pub and folk have got all the same views, you suddenly think that that's the mass of people, because that's all the people around you. Whereas it's still, you take a step away and you ask, you listen to everyone rather than just the people you know or the people around you, and that's when you start changing your views or being a bit more savvy.
It's a confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly.
A feedback loop.
Yeah, you can get that way, and then you get that in racing. You get people think they're right because the mass people around them are saying it, so they believe it to be right because all the people that they're associated with or see are saying these things, and that doesn't mean it's true. It's just because that's one person said it and they're believing it, and they're believing it because it's a big mass of people believing the same thing.
Well, there's a study in that. It's called groupthink.
Groupthink. There you go.
You feed it, and you feed it, and it actually becomes very, very difficult to. You actually get really stuck in it, and it becomes very difficult not to go with it. There was a good social experiment they did. It was really interesting, and it studied kind of the limitations of it. And what they did is they put two circles, I believe, and one was smaller than the other. But they got a bunch of people in the group, in a big group, and they would say that one is bigger than the other, but they were wrong. It was the opposite. Now, the people who were being experimented on would give in and start claiming the smaller circle is the bigger one, just because everybody else was. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm talking about. You almost can't trust people. As somebody who's aware of these things, it's like people are very easy to manipulate on a mass scale.
They are, yeah.
Where you run into stuff.
And that's like exactly what the media does, I would say. Yeah.
And that's what the media's job is. That's its role in society.
And they can choose, you see it all the time, they can choose what they want to broadcast. They can choose that the news is who won the X Factor and all that crap, or you can broadcast horrible stuff happening, people getting killed, women and children dying, but you never hear about that because they don't want to tell you about that. They want to keep you watching shite on telly and not have you question these things ever. And unfortunately, the majority of the people are like that. They watch crap on telly and they think that's because everyone else is doing it, they think that's right. So they create conversations out of, the characters of fake lives they watch in some soap opera. And then they can only create conversation because that's all they have to talk about. So because they don't do anything else, the only thing they have in common is the show they saw. And it creates conversation that stops them questioning everyone else or speaking about anything else. And that's exactly what I presume
It was very interesting, actually, because in a country as large as Canada,
Yeah.
some of the only activities that happen at the same time all over the place are television shows.
Oh, okay.
One of the only uniting experiences, you might say, for a nation, any nation really, is that, because that happens the same time no matter what. You have two time zone stations, we watch the same time zone station.
So it's even if it's a different time zone, the show's still playing at the same time.
Oh yeah, you'll have two stations and they both kind of go together with the same programming, but placed differently.
Okay,
their prime time's different than another person's.
Yeah.
But you could tune into the same. So that's interesting, actually, because that is like a uniting.
Yeah, so they're getting everyone to watch the same stuff.
Some of the only things people can actually talk about together. I never thought about it like that, because that is some of the only things, only shared experiences people who live on two different sides of the continent have is what happened last night on the soap opera.
There you go.
A couple of things there to just jump in what you were saying about Trump.
Mm.
So Trump, obviously a lot of people think he's really stupid, and they put forward a kind of idea that if you think about it, in the kind of 60s, if up to the 60s, the consumer or sales division, the way that they manipulated people was they called out the father or the grandfather in a family and targeted them for their adverts, because they were seen as wise, they were seen as being the people who controlled the purse string, etc. And all the adverts were geared towards that kind of person, the parents, the older ones, the wiser ones, the father figure. And then in the 70s, Disney kind of changed the rule book by realising that if they could manipulate children, then they would have a lifelong customer, not just an elderly customer. So they changed the whole marketing game and started to focus in on children. And as a byproduct of that, they had to dumb down the adverts. And as a result of that, they dumbed down the television. And as a result of that, we now have a culture which has a reading age that's very low, because the television is it's all geared towards creating a consumer, a lifelong consumer. Now, Trump, being a very clever individual, has jumped on that bandwagon. Now, every politician up until Trump has used political language, has used marketing, etc. But Trump, being a salesperson, has used consumerism and consumeristic language. He promises a chicken in every pot, and he uses the terminology that a consumer will understand, somebody who's been programmed from birth by Disney and every other corporate giant through adverts. He uses taglines, he uses big strap lines, headlines. He always makes things sound tasty and juicy and larger than life, and I think that's quite interesting as a part of the US American politics, is what's happening. I think that was a wee bit further back that you just were talking about Trump, but
yeah, no, it was, but it's he understands the concept of reality TV. How with him doing the likes of The Apprentice, The American Apprentice. I suppose he knows how to utilize.
Well, he done
what he knows about reality TV and stuff, and that's where you kind of get a bit worried, because people are actually supporting him because he is a reality TV star, and he has, like you say, he's got these slogans, and he understands how to manipulate average people who understands the words he's saying and things like that, as opposed to politicians who use words you've never heard of.
Yeah, Donald Trump is a very, very dangerous individual. He is not a politician.
Yeah.
He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He knows how to sell something.
Yeah.
And he's a byproduct of the failing education system in the United States. Media itself, it's all a perfect storm. He's also the byproduct of, again, media, the Republicans constantly pushing this fear-mongering.
Yeah.
It was a great point. There was a great point I heard. I can't remember where, but it was that the Republicans are so upset about Donald Trump. They're fighting him. They're fighting him. They can't believe the stuff he's saying. Well, they've spent the past, as long as I'm alive, 20 years,
Yeah.
constantly fear mongering, constantly talking about how all immigrants come from Mexico and rape people. And Trump shows up, and you know what he does? He does what a normal person would do, and he says, "Oh wow, that's awful. Let's build a wall." And they don't understand where it came from. But the reality is Trump's just saying, "Let's build a wall." Like, oh my God, I don't want them in here.
He's saying
Let's
what
build a wall. So that appeals to people because Trump's, as clever as he is, he's just a salesperson, and he says he's like Eminem. Oh, he gets on stage and he says what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And he applies to that what that person, the consumer that was produced through the machine that is society at this point. He appeals to them.
Yeah.
He's an entertainer too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's gonna win.
I know, and it's scary. It's going to be, in my opinion, if Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States, then the West is in trouble. That's what I would say.
The West is already in trouble.
The rest is already in trouble. You're right there.
I don't. To be fair, I don't really think whether Donald Trump gets in or Clinton. I think they're both absolutely disgusting human beings. And whether we stay in Europe or leave Europe, I don't think it's going to make a big. I think the reality of how the world is run by transnational corporations, and that we, the ants, are manipulated with media and very other sophisticated technologies and ideas. We're asleep. We're asleep to the way that the world really works.
But what happens as well is what happens when someone falls. You have to get if something falls, it has to build again. Like everyone goes in full circle, and we're at the time where that unfortunately probably will happen, that things will go really wrong, but it kind of has to, for everyone to kind of wake up. But I do see a collective of an awakening of individuals, and certainly the people I interact with and speak with and things like that, you can see there's a lot of, when you get on that kind of boat, you can see there's a lot of other people like-minded who are thinking differently and are not falling with all the media hype and
But that is there's a guy called
it's a minority, unfortunately.
No, there's a guy called Robert Anton Wilson. He's now dead, but fantastic. He was a quantum psychologist. That's what he described himself. He was into taking LSD and all this sort of good stuff. And
probably opened his mind. Very good.
But he has some of the best books for mind expansion. But Robert Anton Wilson, he wrote quite a lot on the idea of what the thinker thinks, the chooser choose. So, for instance, the best example of that and what you're talking about just there is I buy a new car. My new car is blue. I don't realise that the 10 people who have a car on my street had blue cars. 7 of them were blue. I had not noticed that until I bought a blue car. Then it became sort of relevant in my world.
That's confirmation bias again.
Yeah, so my wife becomes pregnant, and start to see loads of pregnant people everywhere. When you start to, as you said there, you're talking to people who are awakening, you're choosing that circle. Yeah. If I'm into Star Trek, I'm talking about Star Trek to other people, and I realise that other people are actually into Star Trek, and then that directs my path through society, through my conversations online, through my timeline, etc. So that is, if you like, as Justin says, it's confirmation bias. But the thinker thinks, the prover proves.
Yeah.
I in regards to that optimistic view that people are getting better, I also have a big interest in history, and that's one of the things I study. I love history.
Yeah.
And sociology and history make a very important pairing, I'd say, because sociology by itself is hard to apply, but when you start getting context, you can apply it.
Yeah.
So anyways, in terms of history, it's like, where are we in history now? And it's like, looking bad. So if we're at the fall of the Roman Empire, America's doing badly. And what's happening next? What's happening to the West? Well, it might fall, but I share your optimistic view, but for a different reason. It's knowing history, humanity has fallen many times.
Yeah.
And we have never fallen that far back. And we always step forward.
That's true.
So, knowing history, because Rome fell.
That sort of depends on how far back. For instance, when Rome fell, the Vikings, 1400 years later, were attempting to do sort of raid and pillage and this sort of good stuff, and they discovered, places in the Mediterranean that blew them away. That they were literally 1,400 years behind in technology. There's big, huge gaps, like the Cleopatra, again, a famous Egyptian. Mm-hmm. The Pyramid of Giza we are closer to the birth and life of Cleopatra than Cleopatra was to the building of the Great Pyramid of Giza, because that empire went for so long, 4,000 years.
Yeah.
It's huge space of time, like Jesus was only 2,000 years ago, Romans 2,000 years ago. But as you say, empires they come and they go.
Exactly. Because when Egypt falls, Alexander steps up. Alexander falls. Rome steps up.
Yeah, it's because
there's a cyclical pattern, and then Roman's fallen.
Yeah.
And then you get the Holy Roman Empire steps up. Then you get that falls, and then France and Britain step up, and now America's stepped up.
And that's going to fall.
But each time
it goes west.
Each time it's been going west. Hopefully it doesn't go so west we get to Japan.
China's next. The Chinese Empire is going west.
Yeah, China's going to grow and be the leaders, and then they're going to collapse.
Well, the interesting thing is the economic output of the world for the last 2,000 years, 18 out of the 20 centuries has been, the economic leader has been China. Mm. China has been the dominant force on earth for 18 of the last 20 centuries. It's only in the last 2 centuries that it's not been. If you look at what what China brought to the world, there's more pyramids in China than there is in Egypt. China invented things like the compass, invented fireworks, pasta, with the wheelbarrow, the fancy mathematics, the ability to chart the stars. They had sort of that was one of the reasons why Genghis Khan was so dominant when he charged across the plains and slaughtered Europe in the 1300s, was because the Chinese were so advanced. And when Genghis Khan was basically fighting in the major leagues, fighting the Chinese, and when he went to Europe, he was fighting like preschool losers.
I don't know if I can agree with that though, because you get Europe showing up and just wiping out like Chinese sovereignty.
Yeah, but you think about China. What happened with China is they became really advanced, but what they did was kept everyone insular, so they didn't go anywhere. So no one knew their ideas and their tactics and things like that.
Well, they went.
Had they done what Britain did and went all over the world and tried to take land as opposed to anything else,
well, we're kind of ignoring.
Then we'd probably all be speaking Chinese.
We're kind of ignoring something, is that China tends to be much like Europe, many different regions.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's a lot of infighting with China.
Absolutely.
It's
you're always going to get that if it's such a big place.
I read a thing about
so many people. You're bound to have uprisings from other.
Well, I read a thing about China, and there was like a singular event that I can't remember what it is, but it's like why isn't China the dominant force now? And oh man, I can't it was like something crazy happened, and it just kind of diverted everything to Europe. Europe became, because China has all the same Guns, Germs, and Steel talks about this. China had all the same access to all the things that are really important, like farming and surplus and military technology and like disease and stuff, like surviving disease and stuff. That they should have been on top too, but there was a curve. They were hit it with a curveball, and it just shifted the dynamic to Europe, and then Europe had. It was like lots of conflict, also like military technology.
It's always conflict because with communism and things like that, if communism never really worked and stuff, because you're always going to have, you can't ever have everyone the same. It'd be great if everyone was, but you're always going to have someone. You could have all the ants communists, and then you've still got a hierarchical leader or a queen or whatever that still is getting more than everyone else and doing more than everyone else, and then people just become selfish. Or
no, every communist movement was hijacked by a capitalist. That's my saying.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take us back one step there.
Right.
The big thing it could have been was the Mongols. For instance, the Chinese were super advanced, and as you say, there are many different ethnic groups, over 60 ethnic groups, and the Mongols basically had a very unique thing, that there was the Great Plains went from China all the way to Europe, and Genghis Khan and then again his sons and then his grandsons basically conquered that entire area. Now the first people that they fought with were obviously the Chinese. The Chinese were at that time, again 1300s, we had William Wallace in Scotland, killing people. But at that time, the Mongols were fighting the Chinese, and the Chinese were the most advanced society on earth at that time. After fighting with them successfully and defeating them and all that sort of stuff, when they went through the Great Plains all the way to Europe, Kublai Kai, the grandson of Genghis Khan, he sent a raiding party of 20,000 outriders. They had just conquered Islam, so the whole of fucking Islam, just conquered it, and we're talking like Iraq, Iran, all this kind of, and the Crescent Valley, and they sent a scouting party to see who their new neighbours were, to see what was in the outskirts of this new land that they have just conquered. And in the outskirts of their land was obviously Europe. And at that time, Hungary and Poland and various other European countries, by decree of the Pope, had gathered the largest standing army Europe had ever seen to send them into the Middle East to fight in the Crusades. And the scouting party of the Mongols took out the biggest standing army that Europe has ever put forward. The scouting party, and then the Khan died, or the third, so the grandson of Kublai Kai died, and everybody has to go back to Mongolia to have a meeting, because that was their thing. And that could have been it was one of the big things for China and Europe and Islam at that time. That melting pot was the Mongolians.
The Mongolians just ended up dissolving. They were a big threat, and then they just kind of fizzled out.
With the Mongolians?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, right?
So the major thing was like that. For instance, they were on the edge of, wiping out Europe, and that was a scouting party, and then they spend a year going back to Mongolia to discuss who's the next leader. So it was, and at that point they were fighting Europe, they were fighting Islam, they were fighting Russia, they were fighting China. So basically, if you think of that whole landmass in the middle, they were fighting everybody on every side, successfully.
Wow.
Mongolians were indeed very badass.
Well, they changed warfare, and there's a really good podcast by a guy called Dan Carlin, and he does a whole 8-hour historic podcast on the Mongol Empire, and it's amazing. Really, if you like history, you'll love anything by Dan Carlin. It's called Hardcore History, and he also does a really good one called Dan Carlin's Common Sense.
That sounds up my alley, yeah.
Yeah.
Really good podcasts, and he does loads of different parts of history, and they're all like 8 hours long, so you can really get sunk into it.
8 hours each. That sounds good. I listen to audiobooks, so
Get stuck in.
I'm okay with like 40 hours.
So,
The most I've listened to is about 8 hours for an audiobook, I would say.
so communism.
Ooh, communism.
Ooh,
That's a topic.
it's going there. That's the topic.
No, it's just that I took us back to what could have possibly been the straw that broke the camel's back and explains why China wasn't the main power in it, but we were moving into...
I'm just going to jump in there and say that I'm not very knowledgeable about this topic, so...
Communism?
Yeah, if I say anything and it's ridiculous to say, that's ridiculous.
No, I just like I said, every single communist movement in history has been hijacked by what I would deem a capitalist.
But then capitalism
Like an entrepreneur.
Clearly. Capitalist used to work, but doesn't anymore. Or capitalism used to work.
Well, it's like when you got a revolution.
Yeah, like a
and
war.
the ideals are
Yeah, you get
that everyone's going to be equal, and you have someone ended up on top who isn't equal. Well, that's a capitalist doing his job.
Yeah.
That's someone who's done it right. And then you have just the worst, like one guy taking advantage of all these people who are indoctrinated into an idea that they've just fought and killed for.
Yeah.
And aren't really. It's hard to tell someone they're wrong to begin with.
Yeah.
How do you tell someone they're wrong when they just killed their king and they really believe that this new turn is going to be the right turn? You know, how do you convince someone that was things are going in the wrong direction? And you know, it's a fun read. But like Animal Farm goes into that. You know, they have all these rules and the rules keep changing.
Yeah.
And then the pigs, take over. It's great stuff. And they become humans because they throw out all the humans in the book, right? And then the pigs just replace the humans. Well, you throw out the capitalists, and then your leaders just end up being the capitalists.
Yeah.
They're rich. How are you rich in a communist society? How is that possible,
It's true.
It's a different definition of wealth, I think, is the answer to that. But I think when it comes to communism, communism is essentially a 3-stage system. So the first stage is you break down the system. The second stage is you put somebody in charge of the system to rebuild it, to re-govern in small community-based or kind of at a local level where the power is shared. And the third stage is the person that you put in power and during the transitional period gives back the power to this new structure that you've set up with local and kind of at that level interacting and governing together. Unfortunately, most communist attempts only get to stage 2 where the person in power doesn't want to give that power back to the people. They decide that no, I'm here and I'm doing a really good job. I might as well stay here doing a really good job.
Well, you get like specifically in the Soviet Union's revolution, Stalin was going straight for the top no matter what, and he violently eliminates everybody else. It's not a matter of it got stuck; they just gave him the power. Stalin took the power.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the nature of the, if you like, level 2.
That's the Game of Thrones.
You've got to take the power.
In the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
But in the Soviet Union was the most scientific administration of any nation, or any nation ever. And by that I mean, like, in today's nations, it's generally run by lawyers, accountants, and it's full of bureaucracy. Whereas, in the Soviet Union, it was run by scientists and academics. You know, that the administration was made of scientists, and that is something that can you see what they done, the Soviet Union when
Well,
at the peak.
I'd like to believe. I like personally believe that the educated class being in charge would be a good thing, but I've read the A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, because that is not a fun time in the Soviet Union if you believe the accounts of the author. What it's like to be in a gulag and what they think it needs to be done in order to make progress. And then you look at what happened in the industrialization of the Soviet Union. How many people died to industrialize that country, like in such a short time? I love to believe that intellectuals in charge is a good thing, but if what you're telling me is they were in charge, I don't know if I believe that anymore.
Yeah.
It's the same as what happened in China, you know.
Yeah, China industrialized really quickly too at a large human cost, and it's, you know, what is it? Is it communism should be atheist? Isn't that's one of the biggest things, right?
Oh, you just dropped atheist, Rob. That's a topic all in itself.
Well, isn't that one of the beliefs that, or at least that ran? That's one of the ones that ran in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I don't know if that was one of the running beliefs in China. I can't say. I don't know.
I don't know about China.
Yeah, I don't know about China. I don't. Actually, I can't say what religion they are. It's big. It's generalizing.
Rob will know. He's a fountain of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of main religion, if you like, in China is there's Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, and Christianity. And there's also Islam as well in the kind of never eat, shred of wheat northwest.
Taoism and Buddhism, in my view, is a very good religion. And I am neither, but they're, as far as religion goes, I would say that's one that kind of creates goodness, I would say.
You've got to define what goodness is.
Yeah, where's the definition there? I need a dictionary.
Yeah, a dictionary.
We're lawyers here.
What I mean by goodness is it's about living and enjoying present life rather than, you know, looking up to some guy in the sky.
I'd say the societal values are better.
Yeah, it's about like living life. It's just like telling you how to live a good life.
Actually, there was like a big genocide against them because they're not very useful in society. Because they oppressed that religion for a while.
They're not useful in society because you can't make any money out of it. And
you can't. That's what I mean.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was a genocide. I can't remember what it called, but there was like a cleansing because you can't convince a Buddhist to do anything the Buddhist doesn't think is right.
Yeah.
Or the Buddhist doesn't think is like fulfilling.
Yeah.
So they basically tried to get rid of the religion. It didn't work.
Because Christianity tried to do that.
No, it was the Confucianists.
Confucianists, oof.
I think.
I think we're moving into that territory of New Age, wamby-pamby bullshit. Because, like, a lot of people, I don't know a shed load about Buddhism, but Buddhism's just like Christianity in the sense of there's been a lot of different soothsayers along the way who have rewrote different books, have different opinions on things, that created different systems, that argued about what the way to nirvana was, or what was relevant and what was and like the funniest thing for me in Buddhism is a classic that was supposedly said by Buddha, who was a fucking rich prince.
He was indeed.
So this one was
rich.
Do not worship the messenger, worship the message. Now, why the fuck then do people build 100-foot gold Buddha statues? It can
very true.
Worship the message, not the messenger. So, like most Buddhists, and that's just obviously one thing. That the whole sort of, like, if you go into Buddhism, like for instance Tibetan Buddhism, it's mixed with Bon. Bon is a form of shamanism, and there's loads and loads of different gods. And it's the same with Taoism. In Taoism, there's loads of gods, and it's just like the Egyptian kind of, or Greek, or and it's all different godheads, and there's different rituals and worship, and there's loads of crazy shit when you get into it, and it's almost like a lot of times when I hear people talk about Buddhism or Taoism, it's almost like they went to a yoga class and it's all about going hum and wearing a tie-dye and smoking a joint.
Don't get me started on miseducation on religions.
Yeah, well, there's lots of that.
Oh,
like I say, I'm not a very educated man, Jenny. But I know what love is. No.
That Forrest Gump.
There's a couple. Yeah, it was Forrest Gump. There's a couple of things that I've been speaking to. I think it was maybe my cousin, who's been in your podcast, I believe. And we're having a really good conversation. It was actually him that told me. So I don't know. I can't tell exactly how he told it or what he told me, but I can say the kind of brief of what he said. And it was about Jesus, right? And you've got the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? The New Testament's all about Jesus being all, Jesus will do this and blah blah blah, and then God in the First Testament is like, he's a bad guy, you know. He's like, you don't do this, I will come and kick your ass, that sort of thing. But what it turns out was in the books or anything written about Jesus, there's a massive gap from when he was born to when he suddenly returned at whatever age he was, 30 or something. And if you think about it, say he's just a normal guy, born, and then someone makes some bullshit story about him, and then he decides, you know, at that time you've got all the trading, you know, silk trade, well maybe not silk, but spice trades and that.
Silk Road.
Silk Road, that's the one I'm looking for. Going between the Middle East and the likes of China. So there's no reason why he went away travelling the world, being a young guy going, I'll just go and travel the world. Ends up in China, ends up in meets some Buddhist guy or some monk. And he tells him about all this stuff about life, and then he goes back and then tells these people a message, and then suddenly think, because they've not heard this knowledge before, they start believing what he's saying. If that makes any sense, kids.
So you're saying the gap.
There's a massive gap that's unaccounted for.
Gap
yeah,
is him going to China.
It's him traveling and learning,
stealing Buddhist ideals and
well, not necessarily Buddhist ideals, but speaking to monks and then, you know, not necessarily stealing anything,
Eastern ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Being not necessarily stealing, just speaking to people and learning things off them, and then coming back to this nation who have never heard anything like it, and then all of a sudden he's classed as this amazing, wonderful guy.
I think you're partially on the right road. I have a slightly different view of it, which is obviously from 0 to 34, 35 or so. He disappeared, and there's plenty of books. I've got a book called The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ that some fucking meathead supposedly channeled, and he was in India and all these kind of places. But I kind of the idea of him going to Egypt, to go into India, China, all that sort of good stuff, and worship, know thyself, discovering himself through drugs, meditation, various other kind of things, and then going back, as you say, to the Middle East, and basically coming out with some profound shit like we are all one. Again, you realise that God is actually everything. He is your father, he's my father, I speak to him. But the interesting thing about that is, how do you translate that to someone else? If you've become enlightened, or you've touched nirvana, or you've realised that we are all one, you've had a kind of crazy experience, and through many years of, it's like the classic of And I said this to Ali when he was on the podcast, the classic of you've played piano for 30 years. How do you translate that in a couple of words to somebody what the depth of music is?
Yeah.
And then if somebody says, I would really love to be able to play piano like that, but they would never give their time to learn it.
Yeah.
And most people, they buy a statue or a symbol, or they read a book, but big JC, big Buddha, big Confucius, or any of these people, there was a lifelong dedication to get to a truth, whatever that truth is. Maybe
they're basically just enlighten people, and not everyone will get to that. But then what happens? What happens is, say Jesus Christ has come, whoever he is, Jesus. I think I'm going to say Jesus Christ. This guy called Jay comes back, tells us stories. But what happens is, it's like, this is back before people can write and stuff like that. So what happens is, it's a form of Chinese whispers.
Oh, they can write. Okay, they can write.
Yeah, Arabic.
Yeah, but not everyone, is what I'm saying back then. So what I'm meaning.
Aramaic.
What I'm meaning is, he's telling these stories to people who can't write, and what they're going to say is, they're telling a story, but they add a little bit and make him sound bigger or better than what he is, and then they tell that story to someone else, and then they tell that story that is bigger and better than what it actually is, and then all of a sudden you've got this superhero figure through Chinese whispers, and then someone writes it down in a book called the Bible, and then suddenly that's what people believe. It goes down to like old school mass media.
But Big Jesus has all the
Complete
same.
old school mass media.
Big Jesus has all the same characteristics as Mithras, and Mithras was a bull god that was the god of the Roman soldiers. He was born of a virgin. He died for 3 days. He was reborn, immaculate conception, son of God. Da 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 da. You know about Jesus? It was the exact same as Mithra. And there's plenty of good videos that you can watch online where the whole thing, the whole story can be seen as as a way of remembering the stars, the way that they move, the way that they...
I've seen that. I think that exact video. And then Mithra, it goes back to an Egyptian god with, again, the same story.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the coming of Pisces.
Yeah.
And the next is Aquarius. And then it goes so on and so forth. That's what, like, what is it? Eras? No.
Aries.
Ages are, or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, that's what he's talking about when the end of the world and stuff like that. It's like the beginning of new time. And
Yeah.
You
very
get
interesting. But then if you go into the mass media thing we were talking about there, is that the Bible is one of the earliest forms of mass media in the
Completely.
sense that, well, you use language to control it. Bibles were only written in Latin until, Martin Luther comes on and goes, well, people should probably be able to read this. So what's happening is you have preachers literally only telling people what they want to tell them.
Yeah.
And then the preachers serve the big man in the house, the king, or the Pope, actually back then, because they're different, but Pope is working in a symbiotic
and they get a wee bit
relationship
of cash
with
for
kings.
it, a wee bit of money.
Well, you don't say that. You get they get lifestyle and all that stuff, but benefits nonetheless. So, you have all that going on, and then you have, what is it? Anybody can read the Bible. That's kind of like what YouTube is. That's kind of like what social media is. Anybody can put their opinion out there. But then all of a sudden you have any interpretation. And then what happened after that? I mean, millions, it feels like, of versions of Christianity exist. Like St. Lutherans, Protestantism, or, go down the hall, there's Jehovah's, and, so it's kind of actually the same thing. But then there's like an attempt to regain control.
Yeah.
To some extent. I don't think it's ever possible. After, the dam breaks, you can only pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
But you can still pick up the pieces, and they always do. They always pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I'd have to say, certainly in the West, I think religion is on its. Well, I don't say religion. Maybe Christianity is on its way out. Certainly in Britain, it's a minority of people that still do go to church and things like that. Some people in my family do as well. So
Well, everybody's got this interpretation.
Yeah.
They can worship God wherever they
exactly,
are.
I'm always about each their own.
Yeah, so
And the
I
thing
don't
is,
think Christianity's on the way out. But
the thing is as well, everybody has a different
View on things.
interpretation of their Bible or their God. For instance, like a 4-year-old sees Santa as real, and a 10-year-old sees Santa as the parents, and a
Yeah.
15-year-old sees Santa as, you know, the hard work that the parents put in to provide the gifts.
I just find out that Santa's not real.
And the anti-capitalist just sees it as a way of making slaves in China to make tack that's irrelevant and it should all be abolished. And then there's other people who look at Santa as like the Antichrist because he stops families from sharing love and communication because it's been hijacked by consumerism and like there's so many different ways of looking at the same thing. And
Yeah.
well, that's what's interesting because you go back, like I said, you go back and everyone didn't have these interpretations at one point. Only one guy could read the Bible. That was your local priest. And before this point of our news, like everyone can interpret it in the news because it comes at you from
And
like
people,
80 different angles now, and
Yeah.
it's like it used to be just like your news channel, your news station.
and it goes back to what we were saying earlier as well, that a collective of people like to have something to talk about. So before there's telly, you go to church and it's a social event. So you go to church and you meet people and then you talk about what you're hearing, which is about God and stuff like that, or whatever it is. So then again, you go back to those people. So you start hanging about with like-minded people, and back then it would happen to be church people. So.
Churchgoers. Yeah, well, it's in.
And everyone, I think a lot of people, regardless of I think a lot of people quite like to be a part of something, whether it be martial arts or going to a gym or something. People like that community feel of being a part of something or progressing in something with other people.
I've said it many times on a podcast. I wish I could just believe in Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or
Yeah.
some other pish. And I can sometimes that I wasn't so curious to say, but what about, or what's the history of this thing, or what happened here, and what about these guys, and right, so this is starting to fall apart.
Yeah, it's a bit like the way it's worked out is certainly religion is when you've got no answer for why is the sun in the sky, you have no reason. Like if you don't know anything, you're going to be like, wow, it gives us light, and the moon, blah blah blah, and you say all these things until it gets proven almost, and then you start going, all right, well, the sun is there because of such and such, and blah blah blah, and the earth rotates like this because of that.
Do you know, you just brought up one of the best and worst examples ever, because the earth is flat.
Is it? Well, I don't know, I've never been to space, so I'm only going by what people have been saying, astronauts and that, and sending pictures of the earth, but it could all be fake, because everyone's an illusion, Big Rob.
Are you a flat earther?
This is what I'm sure I had a conversation with you years ago, Rob,
Flat earther.
and it was about things that you'd read, and I was like, well, just because you've read that, it doesn't make it true. Blah blah blah. It was, I can't remember what the conversation was, but it was along the lines
for sure.
of space and things like that. And if you think about space, none of us have ever been, right? So you're effectively just going on what someone's telling you. It's almost like a different level of media, but you're going on what scientists are saying, but it could all be a load of crap because you don't know for sure yourself because you've not experienced it yourself. So you're still going on, you're still believing something you don't actually know to be truth. You're just going with the mass people that are going, it's obviously real. It's obviously, the world's obviously like that. Blah. Or the Big Bang did happen because that's accepted by everyone. But the thing that boils down to it is
Exactly.
maybe the Big Bang did happen, but it's still a theory at the end of the day. It's not proof. And you don't know about it yourself. You're just going to what the majority are talking about.
The verification of a spherical Earth as opposed to a flat Earth that's a dome. Now, as crazy as it sounds, because it does sound crazy even though I'm saying it.
The Nazis thought.
The crazy thing is, if you never had people who culture and science and various things that taught you, your personal observations would actually confirm that you're on a flat thing that's a semi-dome or a domed flat surface. All your observations, your personal observations would confirm that it's flat and it's a dome. There's no personal observation that's going to prove that it's a sphere.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
well,
I could get on a plane from Ontario to Britain, Britain to Poland, Poland to Japan, Japan to America.
Yep.
And I would go
full circle
in a spherical circle.
No, but how is your personal verification of that?
Well, the reality is I can't fly. You have me there, but I do have...
So the plane flies up, and then the plane goes flat or horizontal to the surface, and then the plane descends. At what point did it go in a spherical loop?
I just don't get the point of lying about it.
It's not lying about it. I'm talking about my own personal observations. For instance, you can have a boat disappear over the horizon. You go to the beach, and there's a boat on the horizon that disappears over the horizon. And by the math of the curvature, it should have disappeared over the horizon. And according to my eye, it's disappeared over the horizon. Then I get my super zoom camera out, and I zoom into the horizon, and lo and behold, the boat is still there.
Doesn't that have to do with light bending?
No, that's to do with now we have the technology to see beyond the horizon. Literally, I can see beyond the curvature of the Earth with a super zoom, and so can you if you buy one.
It's pretty interesting.
And that's my own verifications. And you can do the math if you wish. And there's plenty of flat earther math out there. It's like most things in life. When you look at something, for instance, if you grew up in a family of scientists, you believe in evolution. If you grew up in a family of religious people, you probably believe that God created it or placed it there, depending on your religion.
Yeah.
Now, if you grew up in a religious one, it's hard to question the religious truth. Now, if you grew up in a scientific family, it's hard to question the taboos, essentially, of your culture, family, etc. And that's all everything in illusion's about. It's about questioning the taboos which are thing you were saddled with due to the place that you were born, the culture, the family, etc. Like you weren't. I did not choose to be born white in Scotland in the 1980s, but because I was, I get saddled with all that kind of cultural bias. It's about questioning that bias. Whatever that bias is, it's about questioning it to make up my own mind about how I think this crazy place actually works.
No, to me, there comes a point where you have to settle for an answer.
Not always.
No. Let me finish. It's part of living life is settling for an answer, and you have to use some thought. And I can't subscribe to flat Earth theory because I don't see a reason to lie to me about the shape of the Earth.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But yet the media lies to you every day about numerous things which you totally agree with, and you agree that they're lying to you.
I can see
and
that
manipulating you.
You say you've had your point about the Earth being flat. What I'm saying is, why would they lie to me about that? Why? Like I can get on a plane and fly here,
but I'll answer that for you.
The other way, and I could go all the way around. I could do that. Why are they fucking me around and telling me that I'm going one way when I'm actually going the other? Like if it's a flat Earth, they're just going like, oh well, we gotta go.
Here's the simple answer. I'm sitting on my couch, and you're sitting on the couch and we're talking,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm into my television, I'm into the X Factor, I'm into the big game shows, and you start telling me how you should really switch off that television. You know, the way that the media manipulates is you should start reading books, get out and exercise, take some walks in nature, go and hug your wife, get back to life, because the TV, all that crap, all the adverts, all the infomercials you're watching, and all that things you're getting passionate about, it doesn't matter, it's all bullshit, they're just manipulating you.
Yeah,
so that you
that's why I don't watch. That's why I don't watch telly.
Right, so from that perspective, I would then say, that's a fucking lot of shite. Because why would they do that? That makes no sense. You're whacked. You believe that the TV is manipulating it, just consumers. No, I love that kind of music. That's brilliant music. This is fucking entertainment, mate. What are you talking about? Everything has a false summit, and there's always a next level. And as they say 100 times, you go down the rabbit hole. You know, you go way beyond the flat Earth. Flat Earth conspiracies are not that kind of far out. When you start going even further down the rabbit hole, you find some really whacked out, crazy stuff that go way beyond.
I can subscribe to that, but when you say someone could deny my load of shite, I have answers.
First Canadian I've heard say shite. Good stuff.
But I have answers for them. Like, why would they want to manipulate me? Well, fear mongering is an important thing. There always needs to be a bad guy to the United Nation as big as the United States. And if you can't find a bad guy, you find an internal issue.
Or you just make someone up.
The rail, the Canadian Railway unites Canada. It can be an internal issue. It can be shootings. It can be, we're scared. Unite your community. Like, these things happen. I have answers for that. What I didn't get was an answer for why, if I take the time to fly from Canada to Poland, then Poland to Japan to America, and they're telling me I'm going one way, I don't know why they would, because they would obviously have to, like, somehow sneak the fact they turned around and they're flying the opposite direction and stuff.
No, they're just flying in a circle.
Enough for them to tell me to, why is my opinion?
Fuel companies cost a lot of money to fuel a plane, so they just go.
Okay.
They're just flying in a circle.
I just need the answer to that, because that's very important to me. That one.
So I'll give you an answer. Just say that you were in the Matrix, yeah, and within the Matrix, like, we're plugged into a computer at the minute in a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And in that simulation, the simulation that was getting run at that minute was this simulation that we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And within that simulation, there is holes in the system that continuously are there to test the intelligence of its subject, i.e., the way that we test rats, the way that we test mice, the way we test monkeys, with ever more sophisticated electronic equipment, be it frequencies, be it computer games, be it risk and reward sort of stuff. We'll just say that we're the lab rat, and we are being manipulated using ever more sophisticated, if you like, stories and technologies that we are not even aware of, but yet through the grid you're continuously getting the message. And if you look for it, you see it in every movie. Loads of creative people throughout time have always pushed the idea that it's there, but it's not until you sort of look for it that you say, alright, is it there? And then you start saying, well, is the earth flat? Is it earth not flat? Now, in terms of, is the earth flat? Now, relativity, which is a classic physics argument, states that things are relative. So, if I was travelling at the speed of light, observing the earth would appear flat. Now, the earth is to the observer, flat.
Mm-hmm.
So the Earth, like, and from a scientific point of view, I can argue that the Earth is flat.
Okay, because you can observe it.
If I was travelling at the speed of light,
It's like your perception of it, though. You're only. It goes back to your. You don't actually know. You go by what you see that the world's a sphere.
Oh, but it brings me to like this excellent place. I like where this was going. This is fun.
I know that's what we're doing.
So,
Fun. But what I'm saying is, your perception of it is what you see.
okay, so I love this awesome theory that if you do the mathematics, that
What if I can't do maths? I can only do what I observe.
It is the most simple math you can do in the world. You know, it's like 2 + 2 stuff. It's that
2.
if you look at how many simulated realities we've created just as a race, you know, like every Sims save game, every Civ game you play, anything, every simulated world we've created in our one real world.
Yeah.
The reality is that there will always be, if you follow the idea that, like the multiverse theory, is that there will always be more simulated realities than there will be real realities. And that this reality we live in is more likely to be a simulation than it is to be a real reality. And then this kind of thing can make you feel anxious, but there's this beautiful quote I love, and it's that it's like, you ask this to somebody, you know what the answer is? Well, it's all the same to me. You still have to get up in the morning. You still have to go to work. You can think about this stuff all day, but the reality is it's all the same to you.
you don't have to get up in the morning. You don't have to go to work.
Yeah, but
You choose to get up in the morning, and you choose to go to work. They're choices that you make based on how you think reality works.
that's true. Well, but it's like, yeah, I guess. So, but if we're in the Matrix, it's like, is it that big of a deal?
Yeah, but the funny thing is,
You should deal with it.
had the movie The Matrix not been out and you hadn't watched it, you wouldn't be talking about this right now because the idea wouldn't have crossed your mind that that's what it was. It's because someone created that idea that you're now going, oh, maybe that's possible.
No, him? My theory is scientific.
No, all theories.
No.
All theories are based on an idea that someone said, and then people do tests and studies on it. But it doesn't matter unless you have the brain power or the resources to do those tests yourself, and you can't ever know the truth.
See, in The Matrix, the movies, there is the one.
Yeah,
Who was...
That's me, Rob. There's no one.
Who was the one?
Neo? Neo was the one.
Nope.
Oh, wait, no, he wasn't the one, right?
Agent Smith was the one.
What?
And he was he was part of the computer side, was he not?
If you go back and look at the Matrix and think about what the one is and what the various things that are said and what is done and who accomplishes again, then the one was Agent Smith.
I need to rewatch those movies because that sounds like an entirely different perspective to watch it with. That sounds like a good time.
Oh, it's great. It's great trilogy, like. But it goes back to the same thing I was just saying.
That was?
We're basically talking about the Matrix, an idea that someone's created, and we're now talking about and thinking about possibilities of it, and then
We wouldn't be
create
having
a whole
discussion
conversation
without-
out of a movie.
But there's a perfect example of the Matrix, just switching it back to the whole idea of mass media kind of manipulating society. The companies that own the rights to the Matrix, they also own the rights to the Terminator films, and they also obviously own a lot of cinema companies, TV companies, newspaper companies, and I think it was the New York Times. They put out a regular kind of thing asking screenwriters and screenplays and scriptwriters to submit films and short stories and stuff for obviously potentially to make money from them. And through that system, The Matrix and the Terminator film was submitted, and it was a female author, and she took them to court, and she never got any press about it ever. There was like The Matrix, again, was one of the biggest selling films, Terminator, biggest, and they were both written by this one woman who submitted scripts to an article in the press, but the companies that were making the money and produced the films, they also owned the press and the media and gave it no coverage. And if you search it online, you'll find that she won the case against them, and she got awarded I think it was upwards of billions dollars in compensation. They basically just ripped off our scripts for the Matrix and the Terminator, and yet the media had a complete blackout on it, because the media is owned and controlled by the people who she was fighting.
Wow.
And we live in a society today where that is less likely, I'd say. Just with the internet, she might write a post, and then all of a sudden everybody knows, or nobody knows, but it's at least it's in the free nexus.
It's funny, the internet's kind of created a sort of platform for anyone to say what they want. But that, yeah, exactly, that's what I was going to get to. It can be good and bad, because you can get people telling the truth and you get people telling lies, but what can happen because you don't know these people? You get a billion people telling a lie, and because it's a billion people telling a lie, and you could be one of the billion, so I believe you, because it's like, oh, well, that's someone I know, it must be true. And then there's a billion people saying that, so it must be true. And then it goes back to what religion is as well. It goes to, there's a billion people that believe that, so those people in that million, or billion rather, that believe that religion, then why would it not be right if they've got a billion of their fellow people believing it? So, and that's where the internet can be really bad. You see it quite a lot. I've been watching it happening during the EU referendum. You've got people sharing videos for and against, and it's like, you could put whatever you want. Oh, this is people talking shit. You could say whatever you want for opposing or going with, and it doesn't really change it, and you're still looking at what someone's put up, so you're going, oh, they've said that, and that must be true and such, so that must, and that's my friend that's done that, so that must be right. Stupid.
Just believing.
Yeah.
Senselessly. That's not good.
Yeah, but that's what people do, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
That's why you have to do things like this. You have to speak to people and question everything. And not for 1 second ever think that you're right.
Giving people the freedom of opinion is just all, because you get the court of public opinion too, where you see this happen, celebrities do something, and then they're already guilty.
Oh, exactly.
To a certain group of people.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they want. They want to make someone look guilty or bad, and they could be completely innocent.
Yeah,
but that's why media can control almost everything, because.
Well, yeah, before this, you wouldn't get the white noise, and then people tune into what they like.
Yeah.
Now, before this, you'd get the media being able to take all that power.
Before the internet,
they can lie. The media lies. They're the only source.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So before the internet, you'd only have the opinions of a CEO of a news company, a news network, and they can say, right, this is what we're going to talk about, this is what we're going to broadcast, like Fox Network, this is what we're going to show, and then because that's all people are getting access to, that's what they're believing. There's a really good documentary I saw ages ago, back in college, and I can't remember the title, but it was about the Fox Network, and it was really interesting. This is way before internet was really happening and stuff. Or not, the internet was still there obviously, but there was no social media or anything. And it was about the Fox Network and them choosing to show black people doing something bad when that's just what they decided to show. There was loads of other incidents happening, but they would televise a black population basically doing wrong stuff, and that's obviously not the case. That's just what they decided to broadcast. So then it creates a fear of the black man, he's got a gun, he's going to rob me, and that's just a load of shit, because that's just that one story that they're portraying, but they're showing it to so many people that they're believing it.
Well, yeah, but one of the main problems is news being biased and then claiming to be news.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they're giving you one opinion.
Although I do work in news for Scottish news, and you always get emails and saying such and such. Make sure, like, we get the ones what the journalists and things get, and it's always like, make sure you use such and such words, but make sure it's balanced. So they always do say make sure it's a balanced point of view. So, and that's me seeing it from a news company, but Scottish television is a small company. You know, it's a small news broadcast in a big world. You know.
I've worked for the BBC a few times, broadcasting for the elections, and I've had the same kind of stuff. It has to be balanced. They have so many different rules and regulations when you're contributing your info towards the stories, and then again, being a sort of journalist, this is journalism, etc., etc., is it's still all controlled and biased, you know, because it's within many layers of, you know, systems. You know, that news that goes out, you know, for instance, what's happening in the world just now, there's, you know, thousands of people protesting something somewhere, you know, be it Brazil, be it France, be it wherever, you know, there's working class people standing up for something somewhere that's getting no coverage, yet we get a classic misdirection story which diverts attention from kind of major kind of political hoo-ha. You know, if something was to come out about Hillary Clinton being actually getting investigated and people actually talking about how fucking nasty a piece she actually is, there'd be a big event in America to change direction, you know, and if you were working in that newsroom, you would be kind of pushing forward a balanced perspective, but at the same time, that is and who chooses that they broadcast that same shit for fucking 7 days whilst the court case goes on in the background? And
exactly. Yeah, they can still, although the people that, because at the end of the day, journalists and that are still, they're just ants, they're just workers that are doing their job and
paying their mortgage.
Yeah, so they're only going with what the person who's giving them stories to report on. So it goes down to the same thing. They can report whatever they want at the end of the day, or not what they want, and that's where social media does help quite a lot, because you do see someone on their mobile phone filming some outrageous thing that you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yeah, you can find stuff. It's the difference.
Yeah,
but
and there's some ridiculous things that's happening in the world that no one knows about.
But then there is people like me who put out false information, thinking it's right information, but it's really false information. Like, I just searched that story of the writer of The Matrix, and a few articles basically saying it's a internet urban legend. So
there you go.
Oh.
There you go.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay, it was like, whoa! I thought it was pretty straightforward.
No, sorry, about the writer.
Right.
The one is Agent Smith. That's my own conclusion, and it's backed up by many hours of watching The Matrix.
That just becomes is art the artists, or is art the viewers?
Ooh.
You know, that's the concept of whose opinion really matters.
Art is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, you could say that, but then what if you get a
everything's
a
in the eye of
dissenting
the
opinion?
beholder.
Like, what if I draw a frog, and then someone goes, "Oh, that's a really cool like lemur," because they're stupid.
Yeah.
And they go, "No, it's a frog."
Well,
is it a frog or is it a lemur? Is it a lemur just to them?
You get a bunch of Muppets, really wealthy people that will tend to buy a piece of shit that it looks like some kids just dropped a paintbrush and spat on it, wiped the hand across it, and it's modern art, and it'll go for millions of pounds. But it's only because someone's marketing and going, "Oh, this is from such and such artist, the world's best."
That's marketing.
He put this line down that way and then smudged it, you know, and then they're falling for the, you know, fucking, you could, if you really wanted to, you could take a photo of it and then create the exact same drawing yourself. And then that's your art and you own it and you don't pay anything for it and it still looks the exact same in your wall.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
But who said?
Or a hack.
Bit stupid. It's like photos. You said like the amount of people buy nice photos and that you see, and there's no reason you can't take that photo yourself and get it made on canvas and hang it up in your wall, and then it's actually your creation.
Yep.
Save a fortune. That's what people need to learn.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and I've seen some of yours, and they're really good. And that's what most people should do.
You make your own art?
I used to. I've not done it for a while, but yeah, they've got a couple in my house hanging up. Yeah.
Mm.
So, I'm a creative genius that doesn't talk about it.
Yeah, self-praise is no praise.
Exactly. So that's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
I think art, modern art, is just being good at English or descriptive language more than actual art. You need a backstory. You need to justify.
It's just good writing.
Yeah, a bit of blue tack on a wall, which won the Turner Prize, was justified by a good grasp of the English language, not for the concept that it conveyed.
Yeah.
Which in itself is interesting, because then that questions what is reality, and why can I get away with making a bed, scrumping the quilt up and saying it's an unmade bed, and then saying this is artwork, and then selling it to an exhibition as a Tracy Emin, a modern artist. And
I think I saw that. That's so funny, because like just a while ago, it's like reality's preparing me for this. Yeah, she's like just got a dirty bedroom, right?
Yep.
And she's like, this is my newest art piece.
See,
and it's like life.
I wouldn't know about that because I wouldn't waste my time
I don't
searching or
I did
finding
not
or following an article about it. I'd be like, that's a
no,
shit.
it was on a program.
Let's move
that
on.
I saw.
My time was wasted because I actually went to see the exhibition.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I saw it on a program that was following her.
I don't even know who it is, and all I can perceive is it sounds like someone's gone in the room and messed up a bit, and then that's art.
I've seen it in Edinburgh as well, so
why do you not just go in your bedroom and just mess it up a bit, and then be like,
You know the worst part is I bet
and then because you're good at marketing, Rob, on social media, you should just said that you've got an art gallery in your bedroom.
it was actually a part of
tickets.
it was a part of my media degree that we went to see it.
Is it?
Oh yeah. Oh my. I can't even. I bet when they set it up, when they're going place to place, it's not even the same. It's just like you just reshuffle the room, and they're like, it's a concept. That's art. It's like, oh, dude, please don't.
That's funny.
Oh, they're the worst. I can't. I hate modern art like that. I mean, I guess
I don't hate anything. Each their own, but there's things I wouldn't waste my time.
There's things I can't stand. I can't pretend I'm not as good as you. I cover my face and just want to cry sometimes with the things I see.
We'll stop seeing stuff.
Yeah,
and start looking for better things.
Close my eyes and ears to the world, I guess.
Create your own world.
But talking to the Buddha here.
But that idea of modern art is quite interesting, because there's always people like, say, Banksy or these kind of political artists who are using the concepts of modern art, etc., to put across kind of politically charged and make people question things, just like the podcast. And then there's another sort of side to it of kind of people who are born with a silver spoon up their bum, privileged, and their father was a this and their mother was a that, and they're an artist, and they make a shitty chair, or they make a bit of blue tack on a wall, and they're so privileged that they live in such a bubble that they expect people to pay £50,000 for that shit that they've just produced. Go and get a fucking job and see a bit of real reality. But then that asks the question, why is my version of reality based on my circumstances more valid than their? They never chose to be born with a silver spoon up their ass, with a kind of eclectic upper class bullshit fucking perspective.
They could have pulled out and cleaned it at least, though.
because they're all living on a flat Earth illusion.
No, full circle.
So,
Yeah, no, well, exactly. You get these. Well, it's the rich people who make the culture mostly. Like, well, what you just talked about was like Kim Kardashian, and she can do exactly what you just talked about. She can do whatever she wants. There's like a TV show of them just bitching at each other. And then they're famous.
I know, but for people to even like, I don't understand why anyone would watch that. Like,
but they do.
Two people bitching and in this total fairy tale world, it just doesn't. I don't understand what appeals to people to watch stuff like that, or even be interested in it. It's like mind numbing.
I think what appeals is their ability or their access to.
Because they think they'll be like that one day.
The Kardashians' access to money or to the items that money buys, i.e., big fancy cars, big fancy houses, fancy clothes, access to like good food, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. I think that's what makes it appeal, because that is at the forefront of the entire TV program. It's they're always in big fancy houses doing glamorous things in the evening. Their evenings aren't just get in for work, sitting in your pyjamas, eating a shitty pre-cooked Sainsbury's meal whilst you fucking bitch about your work, and then go to your bed after playing 20 hours of video game. Their days and their evening are buying houses and jetting about in fancy cars and going to fashion shows and charity events, and there's money and glamour, and I think it's that bullshit story that consumerism and capitalism sells us, that fucking hell, you could be like this, you could live this.
That goes back to the whole thing in the very beginning, is media. You could ask, is media reactionary, or are they doing that on purpose?
Okay.
Because I can see them reinforcing American ideals. You can see like they're reinforcing American ideals of consumerism, like you keep saying, and all that, and it's like, oh, fancy cars, and here's what you should aspire to. This is what the perfect life looks like to an American. That's what this is. Yeah. And now you go, are they saying it? Are they manipulating me? Or are they reacting? Because I can't get a beat on it, to be honest, in a capitalist society. Because a capitalist society is led by money.
Mm-hmm.
So in money, you want to give people what they want to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also, if you were to lead people to what they want, you're more likely to keep making money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what and when is it? I tend to do the more reactionary, because they're like, well, people want to see Kim Kardashian do that. They obviously want to see it, so I'm going to keep putting it out.
I want to see someone kick her in the teeth.
It's a good product, right?
Yeah.
Not that it's a good product, but it's a good product. Obviously, they're making more money than me.
Well, it's a good product in that sense, yes.
Yeah. But it's a good product in the United States, as it reinforces beliefs. It keeps their economy going.
It does.
People think you need to be happy, you need to be rich, so they work harder,
But then that's a big misconception.
They get a car, and
money doesn't make you happy.
Oh yeah.
You'll get a lot of wealthy people that have got the big house and the nice car, but they've got no time for family, got no time for social.
Their kids have all that time, though.
They might have to commute 4 hours of their life every day.
But I think that's another story that poor people tell themselves to justify why they're poor. I'm pretty much sure if I was minted, I'd be having a great fucking time.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. Is that, like, I think money.
Totally true.
I think money does lead to happiness, because you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but if
you have money and time, then why aren't you happy?
I think money, if you become really successful from nothing, then money makes you happy. If you come from money to money, or you're born into money, you won't be happy. Because you won't really live a real life or understand what work ethic is and stuff.
It's all the same to
unless
them,
you've come from nothing to be something.
You don't need to understand that. There's this one thing, it's like, there's this YouTuber, he writes this song, it's, an anglerfish doesn't know anything else but being happy, because he doesn't,
that's all he knows.
It's not that he's programmed to be sad. His life is crappy as it can be,
But he doesn't know any other
doesn't
side.
know anything else, so he's always happy.
Yeah, and that's
So,
true, and that's why.
You're saying if you're born
weren't-
in money and money,
This is a good example. If you look at Facebook, pretty much people only talk about stuff or show something that's them having a good time or being somewhere good. You're never going to see someone putting a photo of themselves crying and say this is a sad day today.
I've seen it a few times.
Yeah, but it's very rare. So people start seeing other people's lives through Facebook and they think that everyone's having an amazing time all the time because all they're seeing is great photos of them having such a great time in that. And the reality is they're only putting the good bits of their life up. But then people see that and then think that that person's doing better than them and they should be doing stuff like this and blah, blah, blah. And then it can make them unhappy for no reason. Because they're thinking that people are doing what they should be doing or they're always happy, and that's not their case.
Competing with an illusion.
Exactly, competing with an illusion.
Like, it's slightly different there, what you were saying, I think what we were saying, but what you were saying there about Facebook's really interesting because people are automatically using the rules and the techniques that media uses to manipulate, and they're using it to broadcast in their own timeline to manipulate their recipients of their own branded media, i.e. by telling people life is peachy, I'm at a dance club, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, when in fact life ain't peachy. And but that's a kind of what people have been taught to broadcast by the television, by the radio. That it's that classic, you ask somebody how you doing and they say brilliant, fantastic, fine, and you say for a second time how you doing, and then you get the oh fuck man, I just got divorced, and they break down. So you never ask someone twice.
How you doing, Rob?
Good, peachy, brilliant.
How you doing, Rob?
Well, let me tell you.
Let's talk about all the technical difficulties. Oh.
I'm doing alright. I'm doing good because it's nice to channel things that are in your head. It's good for you. It's healthy. I've been doing a lot of writing and stuff recently, so it's been good.
It goes. Well, that Facebook thing goes to like the indoctrination. Like to us,
Completely.
Writing all that stuff is very intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, the media indoctrinates you, and then you reflect what you see in the media.
Yeah.
You know, But then again, like, I think it's what you watch, because, like, if you were to watch the news today, and if you were really reflecting the news, you would be like, oh man, a terrorist just fucked up my car, or you know what I mean? Like, your life would just be horrible if you were reflecting that. That's all you'd show, right? So,
but you do get people that do that.
You do. That's what I mean.
And I think if you think about it, the way energies and stuff work, bad things tend to happen to people that think bad things are going to happen to them.
That might just be confirmation bias. Those are people
The thinker
looking
thinks
for the
approve
bad
approves.
thing.
The thinker thinks approve approves, confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you kind of bring on yourself almost. You're like, oh God, I'll probably get a parking ticket if I do that. You probably will get a parking ticket because you thought about that. If you went, I'm not going to get a parking ticket, I'm not going to get that.
Have you read The Secret?
I have read that. I read that years ago. It was alright. It was a couple of little flaws in it, but it was good. It was a good book.
A couple of flaws.
Yeah. It was a good book.
Fucking marketing bullshit to new age simpletons.
That's exactly why it's for new age simpletons.
I was like, I like that. Have you ever watched the show? It just starts out the corniest thing ever.
What, the TV one of it?
Yeah. They're like sending the secret. They're like, the secret, and then they run back and forth, and it's like the Templars to like the American presidents. It's like every successful person knew.
I'll tell you what is a good book to read if any listeners want to read it, and it's Eckhart Tolle, who's a German Canadian, or he's a German author that lives in Canada, and he's got a book called The Power of Now.
Did you just call Eckhart Tolle?
Tolle.
Tolle, as in a Tolle, as in a jobby.
Yeah, we got Canadians here, you won't know what a Tolle is. Alright, Eckhart Jobby. Kewaquado. Sorry, Rob.
I'll just nod.
Smile and wave, boy. Smile and wave.
He's very well respected in a lot of.
It's a good read. Very interesting concepts and things, and kind of it was a kind of, for me, it kind of let me, like, almost reassured what I thought, my thoughts and stuff is what I was, the way I was thinking and stuff, and that was before I read it, and I was like, oh cool, someone else has kind of got the same view as me. That's quite good.
Echo chamber.
Hmm.
Nothing. You know, that's, you read these things and then you're like, ah, yes, and then it's like, were you reading it because you're looking
No,
to
but some
educate, or are you reading it because you're like, ah, I will continue this adventure?
no, sometimes what happens is you come across things because you're going along that path, and you go, ah, we'll give that a go. You end up reading loads of random things if you want to learn something, you're going to read about it or read about that topic. So,
But then again, that forms into the kind of
it does.
what Robert
Yeah.
Anton Wilson talks about, in the sense of, like, he's got a fantastic book called Prometheus Rising, and the first chapter is all about basically looking for 10-pence pieces. And for 1 month, like, it's an American book, so he talks about 10 cents or whatever the coinage is, but he said the equivalent would be 10 pence, and for a month you just look for 10 pences. You forget about everything else you're doing, and every time you're out and about, you're looking at the floor, you're looking at the curb, you're looking at the road. If you're in a cafe, you're looking at the tips, you're looking for 10-pence pieces. And in that month, you will find enough 10-pence pieces to pay for the book. And it works, because out of the billions of pieces of information that you could decide to tune into, you focus in on finding coins on the street, and most of the time you just would walk past them and you wouldn't even see them. You wouldn't even be aware that there was a 10-pence just there in the corner, you know. We with the thinker thinks, the prover proves. We follow the paths that we choose, you know. If I'm into Star Trek, I talk to loads of people who are into Star Trek, and
Yeah.
we follow that line. If I'm into New Age bullshit, I follow that line. If I'm into Islam,
You follow that line.
into crazy conspiracy theories that the earth is flat, and I live in a computer generated matrix, and I'm a fucking slave to the Gnostic archons, then
That was Rob just reading the first line of his CV.
have you ever heard of Gnosticism?
I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it is. Gnosticism. I think of Gnosticism.
The Gnostics it was a form of Christianity that was way back in the early days when Christianity was at its beginning, and the Gnostics believed in workship. They believed it was an internal journey that you could only carry out. How you get to know God is basically via yourself, and it takes hard work. It's no worship, it's workship. But as a big part of the sort of internal journey, they discovered that the, if you like, the devil, not the kind of devil, but the kind of a controlling, energetic, demonic force. They called them archons, and these archons were essentially feeding on and farming the humans, and it's called Gnosticism.
Mm.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I need to check that out.
Crazy branches.
If you think about what you just, one little thing I just heard you saying there, there's lots of things that you hear that God is within, and if you think about it,
I've got that tattooed on my arm.
all it means, there you go. All it means is there's no such thing as, you know, people worship. In my opinion, people worship something that's not there. But if they think about it, that it's within themselves in terms of they can do whatever they want to do and be God per se, if they want to be, if you know what I mean. Like they can, like there's no point putting all your energies into worshipping something when you can kind of work to be the best you can be, and then you can see why there'd be like a heaven and hell would be like, hell would be you not doing what you want to do and having a shit time, and then heaven would be like your presence, feeling really good and doing what you want to do in your presence.
It's quite interesting you used that exact quote, because I have that tattooed on my arm, and if God is within,
Yeah,
and it comes up in almost every religious
that's what I was. Yeah.
kind of thing. And the way I look at it is, God, whatever you think God is or could be, or however you want to answer that question, it must first be fashioned in your own mind.
Yeah.
So it has to be a combination of all your external learning, culture, society, blah 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 blah, and it goes into the mixing pot, which is the conscious and superconscious or subconscious mind, and then you regurgitate from all that stuff what it is God is. So it's fashioned inside. God is not an external thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's an internal thing. It's within.
Yeah.
And it comes up in all the different. And I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Like, no matter what, even if God is on the outside, he has to be interpreted.
Yeah.
By the individual's mind.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of comical. God could be telling you one thing, you take it completely wrong. And
if you had a God, what would it look like?
my God? What would God look like?
Just your interpretation.
What do you mean? So appearance-wise, or what? What is God?
Appearance-wise. Well, because think about like the.
That is a big question.
Simpsons.
What does your God look like?
It's a big black woman because it upset every Christian.
Yeah, that's good. No, but I mean, everyone always thinks the bearded man.
Yeah. He's got 5 fingers instead of 4.
Blondie brown hair, blue eyes, and creamy white skin.
I love it.
Yeah, he's got white skin even though he's from the Middle East.
Oh, God, and God is within. I mean, if the brown people won, God would be brown. You know what I mean?
Well, that's that classic. If
She is black. There was
if you have a car crash and you're a Buddhist, you meet Buddha, and if you have a car crash and you're a Krishna, you meet Krishna. If you're a Hindu, you meet one of 100 gods. If you're a Christian, you meet Jesus. If you're a Muslim, you meet Muhammad, etc. It goes on and on and on. They're all as real, that there might be a place beyond where some sort of software download, if you like, and the program was morphing to kind of parameters that it was given, but then you realise that it was all just the same thing, and it decodes it, if you like. But who knows? Nobody can ever answer that, and that's why it's like the only thing that you're guaranteed is that the physical body deteriorates.
Yeah, but your energy might go elsewhere, or it has to go elsewhere.
Well, we can't.
Because energy's forever moving.
That's true, but that energy could just transfer into the soil. The heat dissipates into the surrounding area. The potential energy, kinetic energy, etc., just dissipate. There's never been shown that there's a transfer of information. Yeah,
the fundamental thing is you can believe whatever you want to be, but you'll never ever know the real truth.
Once this is all a game and we wake up and it turns out we just sadistically put ourselves into it.
Well, it doesn't matter. We being here right now, we know that.
I've had that trip, and I was deep in, and it was all a game, and it was all a hologram. And everywhere you looked, everything I could think of, everything I could experience, I was still in, and it went way beyond, and holy wowzers, but a holographic simulation that is a test species.
Well, that's what you saw.
I experienced that on a trip one time.
Jesus, see, and this is all the stuff I come out with. I've never had a trip before. I feel like I should.
I fell through infinite black space for an infinite amount of time. Now, that sounds like some crazy words. Infinite.
Would you not still be there then?
Well, it was in my mind. I smoked some Salvia divinorum, and 15 minutes later...
Was this in South America?
No, and...
Salvia is illegal. You can do it pretty much anywhere.
It's the strongest natural hallucinogen known to man. And I literally fell through infinite space, and then met a crocodile made of leaves, and then woke up. And if just say that you had a trip and you went from teenager to 80 years of age, and then you woke up and you were like, your mates are just sitting next to you, and you're like, holy fuck, what's happening here? I just smoked alright, I'm back in the room. I just smoked a joint, and holy fuck, that 80 years was just that was just the trip. Well, multiply that by I fell through infinite black space in every direction for an infinite amount of time, and then met a crocodile made of leaves, and then woke up, and it was 15 minutes, and I was just like, what the fuck?
That shows how much potential the mind's got, because if you have sat on a drug that can open the mind like that.
And it also tells me that time is irrelevant, that time is an illusion that was created by my own mind to understand the reality that I'm in. It's no us.
Oh, I had the exact same thought the other day, and it was that, like, it was triggered by deja vu, and it was like, what if time is just bouncing around, like, every which way, and the mind does its absolute best to make sense of it, because because we have to survive in the world. So like our minds make the most continuity it can in this universe for our experience, but like deja vu is it like sometimes elapsing or breaking down, because like our minds aren't perfect, they make mistakes. That was just a fun one though. I don't know, stuff like that is super trippy to think about. And
that's me and young Justin here who aren't tripping. We're sitting drinking cups of tea.
That's to say, I've got lemon juice.
But it goes to show, it goes kind of what we were saying earlier, like a collective of people chatting about things. But what happens when you get like-minded people? You can suddenly say something and it can become really understandable for that person that's got the right mind. And so if you say it to someone else, they'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And that's why you've kind of got to develop your mind, I suppose, and listen to everyone, and accept everyone's opinions, and just know that you'll never know.
Well, accept.
And be content. Yeah, it's accept.
Take it in.
It's accept that everyone's got something to offer. Everyone's got knowledge that you never thought about. And every single person's different.
So it's having that conversation. I think a lot of people just, in one example, a lot of people would say, that's deep. And you're like, what, are you shallow? And then the other sort of, when you start talking to people about these kind of ideas, a lot of times they're so abrasive to their construct that they automatically shut it down. For instance, when I brought up the flat earth, automatically
that Canadian laughed at you.
It was shut down. It was
I didn't shut down. I listened.
I know for sure, but
I just wanted a little more than just flat earth.
But I personally don't believe in a flat earth. I just like to.
You like the
flat earthers. They're just a funny joke.
He likes to stir the pot.
But I really do want to get a really strong flat earth advocate onto the podcast to really just go give it a thorough once over about what they believe, because some of the arguments I've came across have been like really thought through and convincing, you know.
I know, totally. But anything can be convincing if you get enough people talking about it.
Exactly, and that's media.
Mm-hmm.
Look, full circle.
So we roll, man.
We've been going in wheelies.
Yeah.
We come full circle every single time.
It's like we're professional.
And on that full circle, I'm going to call it a call it a call, and that was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
So this is
touch there.
Oh yeah, going everywhere. It's like every conversation with me in the world.
The only one we didn't have, but we need to
had
do
with
next
other
time
people.
is space. We need to get into space and time travel. That can be the next one, Rob.
Well, those are fun topics.
I like it, and you know, you can do 3-way Skyping, so that's definitely good for the future. We can get
Yeah,
that
I'm down
happening.
for that. I'd come back.
So thank you very much. Let me just get your surname there, Justin Kewaquado.
Yeah, it's pretty good. No, it's good.
Kewaquado. And a Canadian guest, Mr. Richard Steele, our Scottish guest, broadcasting from Scotland. Thank you very much for checking out the podcast. If you listening on iTunes, leave us a review, subscribe. You're listening on any other medium, give us a subscribe, a comment, share, like, Facebook, Twitter, all that sort of good pish. If you're on the website, Google Ads, click them like mad, make us some money, and check out our sponsors. We have Health Made Simple, we have Rob Wallace Media, and we have the Energetic Mind t-shirts. Check them all out, fucking fantastic shit. And thanks very much to our guests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Rob.
Justin, sorry, one last time, do you have any contact information if anybody wants to, do you have like a Twitter or anything like that? That you want the people to follow or subscribe, or are you just like, nah, I'm good?
No, I'm just an individual, man. But if you do want to contact me for any reason, I guess you send your hate mail to Justin, JUSTIN Kewaquado, KEWAQUADO @gmail.com. I'd love to actually, if you want to get into a discussion about something, I'm down for that. I love a good back and forth, you know. Just try and be reasonable.
Excellent. There we go. Until next time. Goodbye. Everything is an Illusion is brought to you by RobWallaceMedia.com, award-winning media. TheEnergeticMind.com, inspirational, motivational and thought-provoking art. And Health Made Simple. Buy today, change your life forever. healthmadesimple.info. Thank you, and remember, question everything.